Started about healthy eating. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what brings you to your position?
Sure. I graduated from Iowa State with degrees in both dietetics and kinesiology. I then spent a year in Peoria, Illinois, doing supervised practice in the hospital there. And I've been back in Iowa as a registered dietitian for a little over 2 years now.
Awesome. Now, going to all those different schools and all those different degrees, what was your path? How did you decide to become a clinical dietitian?
Well, originally I went to college for journalism and decided I really liked my intro to nutrition class and just went from there.
Awesome. Now, how long have you been at Allen?
I have been at Allen now for a little over a year and a half.
Okay. It seems longer.
It does.
Now, what kind of services do you offer there?
We do both inpatient nutrition education, and we work with patients who are on nutrition support, whether it's tube feeding or TPN, which is essentially getting nutrition through an IV. We also do outpatient nutrition counseling, community outreach programs such as the annual Heart Walk, and we also speak at different area support groups like the prostate cancer support group.
Awesome. So you are very busy. So again, thank you for joining me today. Lisa, let's just start at the beginning. Why is it so important to plan our holiday meals and parties? Because you always hear this is a time of the year when people, we're suspected to overeat, overdrink.
On average, Americans gain about 1 to 2 pounds over the holiday season. And while that may not seem like very much, research shows that weight tends to stick around and it accumulates over the years. I do want to point out it is possible to avoid holiday weight gain while still enjoying your favorite holiday foods, which we'll talk a little bit about later.
Okay. So when you say over the holiday season, are we going back to Thanksgiving or even Halloween, 1 to 2 pounds?
These 3 months, it involves lots of food, lots of holidays that focus on foods, sweets, and it just kind of continues.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's talk a little bit about weight and what's the harm in being overweight or eating too much?
Being overweight can lead to more serious health problems such as heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, and there's also an increased cost associated with these chronic diseases. And it also gives you less opportunity to remain active and healthy well into your old age.
And all of that ties back to our BMI, will that be correct? And when we talk about being a little overweight, sometimes I hear people say, well, I'm just a little overweight. It's like, okay, these are measures that we have to look at. It's like someone saying, I'm just a little pregnant. So what does overweight mean? How can we determine if we are overweight?
The best example would be to use the BMI that you mentioned, which is a ratio of your height and your weight. Guidelines state BMI between 18.5 and 25 is considered normal.
Okay.
Overweight is in that 25 to 30 range, and being obese is anything higher than 30.
Okay.
And again, everyone has a different healthy weight that's best for them. These are just guidelines, and doctors can work with you to give you the best recommendations for you as an individual.
Awesome. Now, suppose our listeners are planning a party, which I know a lot of my listeners are. No one wants to just serve carrots and celery, so what tips can you give us to plan that party?
Well, if you are hosting a meal, try to include healthy, low-calorie items in addition to your traditional holiday dishes. Pieces of fruit can be dipped into yogurt to make a sweet treat. Veggie sticks combined with a reduced fat dip can make a quick and easy appetizer. And also a standard lettuce salad can be a lot lower in calories and just as tasty as a mayonnaise-based salad option.
Great. Now, I want to focus in on the low-calorie, dipping the fruit into yogurt. And there's been a lot of different yogurts within the last couple of years on the market. Can you talk a little bit about the newest one that a lot of people have questions about, the Greek yogurt? And why is that so popular?
Greek yogurt, it's just a different style of yogurt. It's higher in protein, however, not everyone needs more protein.
Oh, okay.
It's an individual basis, and it's just another option. Greek yogurt can be used as a substitution for sour cream. If you use a plain flavor,
Mhm.
there's a lot of different ways you can use it to get a little bit more nutrition in.
Okay, now, going back to this wonderful meal planning, I'm going to set up a scenario that sometimes is traditionally African-American meals. So, and I want you to kind of give us some tips on how we can reduce some of the fat in there.
Okay.
Let's start out by macaroni and cheese. What would you suggest?
The number one thing would be portion control. You know, a big heaping scoop of macaroni and cheese, if you're having a lot of other foods, that may not be the best way to go about it.
Okay.
You know, just watching your portion sizes. If it's your favorite food, give yourself a taste, but you don't have to overdo it. You know, additionally, you can reduce the amount of butter that you use when you're making dishes like that. If it calls for half a cup, you can take out 2 of the tablespoons. As a good rule of thumb, you can cut butter in any recipe down by about 75%. So, for example, if the recipe calls for 1 cup of fat, you can use 3/4 a cup. And it's not going to affect the final product, it'll just be a little bit lower in those unhealthy fats and the calories.
Great. Thank you so much, and especially about the butter, because I know a lot of the recipes, you know, they will say real butter, but as you mentioned, it doesn't have to be real butter, and we can also reduce the fat by using less of it. And what would be your suggestions regarding like cream-based products versus milk?
Whenever possible, try to go down to a lower fat product. So if it calls for whole milk, try using a 1% milk instead. Since those higher fat milks have a lot of those unhealthy fats for us that are bad for our heart, and they also add extra calories. So it's amazing just by switching how many calories you can take down.
Oh, good ideas, thank you. Now, suppose I like to skip a meal preparing for the feast, and I'm sure you have heard a lot of your patients say this, so that way I can even eat more what I love. Now, how can we do that, or are we supposed to do that?
The biggest thing I can say is avoid the urge to skip a meal before a big holiday gathering or party. Skipping meals can actually cause you to overeat later in the day. Research suggests that people who eat breakfast in the morning tend to eat fewer calories throughout the day. So if you include fiber foods in your diet, such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, these fiber foods will help you feel full, they'll help satisfy your hunger, and they also tend to be lower in calories. So by incorporating those higher fiber foods earlier in the day, it'll help you eat less later on and help you control your appetite at that big event.
Awesome. So I can hear my listeners saying right now, what are some really good high fiber foods that I can eat regarding vegetables and fruits? What tips would you give them?
Vegetables and fruit, if it has a peel, like if you think of a potato skin or an apple peel, those are going to be your best sources of fiber. So if you do have mashed potatoes, keep the skins on, because that's going to give a little bit more fiber to it.
And even if they bake the potato, can they still eat the skin?
Yes, that skin again is the main source of fiber.
Okay. And then what would you suggest for the fruit?
For fruit, same thing goes. If it has a peel, it's going to be a great source of fiber.
Okay.
Apples tend to come to mind. Let's see, peaches with the skin on, another good source of fiber.
Okay. Now, frozen versus fresh versus canned, what would you suggest?
When you look at them, the fresh, frozen, the canned, nutrient-wise, they are very similar.
Okay.
You know, we live in the Midwest. It's
Yes.
not the best time of year to eat fresh fruits and vegetables. So canned and frozen become a great alternative to get those fruits and vegetables in. You know, our goal is to get at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day.
Okay, that's good to know.
The average person gets about 2, so, you know, even getting 1 more serving can really help you as far as getting that fiber in. The one thing I want to point out with those canned vegetables, you have to watch out for the sodium. You know, if you have high blood pressure or you're watching your sodium content, look for a no added sodium or rinse them under running water. But also those frozen vegetables are a better option because you don't have to worry about the sodium.
That is really good to know, because I know a lot of our listeners, you know, since we live in the economic stage where, you know, we have to watch our pennies, canned vegetables tend to be a lot less cheaper than the frozen vegetables. So again, with the cans, you recommend washing them, running them under cold water or hot water, or?
Just running water. It'll
Okay.
rinse off some of that that coating, the brine coating that they use to preserve the vegetables. Something else to think about, buying frozen vegetables in bulk, especially bags that have a zipper top. You know, it really cuts down on the cost per serving, and it's a great alternative, you know, to having those canned vegetables with the sodium ion.
Awesome. I know my listeners are writing everything down that you're saying. This is great. And what about tips for like buffets? Just, you know, for those who don't like to cook, they might be thinking of going to a buffet line. What would you suggest?
And buffets, I kind of group them in with potluck settings,
Oh.
really large family meals. The same tips apply for all of those situations. The number one thing is just go through that line once. Limit yourself to only one plate.
Okay.
If you use a smaller plate, you have to put less food on your plate. You have to put less smaller serving sizes. In these situations, choose only your most favorite foods, and then add some healthier, lower calorie foods like your fruits and vegetables to fill up your plate. This way you can enjoy your meal, you get your favorite foods, but you don't end up feeling too stuffed that you have trouble moving. Another thing, slow down while you're eating. This allows you to have more time to enjoy the conversation with the family and friends you're eating with.
Now, you had mentioned the size of the plate. How does that play a role in how much food we place on a plate?
Over the years, the size of our standard plate has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
It really has.
And the bigger plate you have, the more food you put on it. If you have a smaller plate, it's going to really force you to look at your portion sizes and adjust to fit the food you want on that plate.
And I wonder what some of that too could be psychological, you think?
If you put a similar portion size on that small and large plate, you're going to feel like you're cheated looking at that big plate with not much food on it.
That's true. And what is the rule? Because again, I have heard patients say, well, I can't throw anything away. I have to eat everything that's on my plate. What would you recommend?
There's always a refrigerator for leftovers. You know, you can always take home leftover foods. Save it for later. Don't force yourself to be stuffed now when you can save that food for later and enjoy it.
And another thing about the buffet line, I know that you had mentioned, you know, get what you like and then also go for the healthy stuff. And I remember a couple of times when I would be observing, the hot foods was the main attraction, and then the salad bar was like, nobody was over there. So how can we get in that mindset of maybe going towards the salad bar first and then reverting over to the hot foods?
Well, if you imagine the plate in front of you, if you divide it in half of that should be fruits and vegetables in order to get the nutrients you need, including that fiber, as well as antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, the good healthy stuff. So if half your plate's fruits and vegetables, your protein foods like your meat should be limited to about a quarter of your plate. It's a big misconception that we need more protein than what we actually do.
Yes,
Meat should not be consuming our entire plate. Really the size of the palm of your hand is about 3 to 4 ounces. That's really all the meat you need at a meal. So cutting back that meat portion size. And then if you imagine that remaining quarter of your plate, that's where you can fill it with starches, whether it's a dinner roll or pasta, rice. So if you have that in mind when you're getting ready to go through the buffet, that'll give you a little bit more guidance as far as how to fill your plate while you're going through.
That's a really good idea too. Now, getting to the good part. What about those desserts? How can we help with eating less on the desserts? Because I think a lot of times, you know, we scarf down our main food just to get to the desserts. How can you help us?
If you separate the dessert from the main meal, make dessert a separate event.
Okay.
Wait a couple hours. This allows you to digest your food, and you're not overdoing it. You're not putting too much food in your body. Again, stick with just that one plate. Go through the dessert line once. Try to sit away from where all the desserts are at. So if you're standing around the desserts, you'll tend to eat a little bit more. Grab another
that's
cookie,
true.
keep snacking. When you're eating, eat slowly and enjoy each bite. I mean, it's a dessert, it's good food, you want to enjoy it. But also portion control is important. You know, it's okay to enjoy those favorite foods, but don't overdo it. You have to allow yourself to enjoy a holiday treat, but avoid the temptation to go back for seconds or thirds or fourths of it.
That is true. Now, would you recommend, or do you know in your research, are there some like desserts that should be like a red flag, like no, no, no desserts compared to a yes, yes, yes dessert, whether it be pies or cakes or?
In general, you know, fruit is always going to be a healthier, low-calorie form of dessert. But that said, it is the holiday season, and I really hate to label foods as bad and good because that tends to play a psychological role in our mind. Again, I would just say choose your most favorite food. If you eat a substitute and you're thinking about that piece of pumpkin pie that you really want to have, chances are you'll eat your substitute and then go back for the pumpkin pie and eat more calories overall. So just choose your most favorite foods, the ones that you're going to regret not eating, and just watch your portion size.
And plus, either sweet potato or pumpkin pie, those should be good choices because they're fruits.
Exactly, and they do add a little bit more nutrition from the vitamins and minerals.
Oh, great. Now, since you got all of us hungry, let's talk about the preparing of the food. Now, what can we do so that the food that we serve is still healthy and still tasty?
You know, there's several ways you can modify your favorite recipes. We talked a little bit about how to cut back the fat with the macaroni and cheese. Same rules apply with baked goods. If it calls for a cup of butter, any type of fat, you can always put 3/4 of what it calls for in.
Okay.
If you're cooking with oil, thinking of like a banana bread or some type of pumpkin muffin, pumpkin bread, you can substitute applesauce for oil, which may seem like a crazy idea, but it really does work. You know, 1 cup oil, you can put in 1 cup applesauce, as long as there's some sort of fruit in that recipe.
Okay.
With sugar, one option would be to use an artificial sweetener such as Splenda. However, you can also just cut back the amount of sugar. If it calls for a cup of sugar, you can do anywhere from 1/2 to 3/4 cup of sugar instead, and it won't change the final product.
And it'll taste just as good.
Exactly.
Thank you. Now, what about the holiday drinks? What can you tell us about the calories in them? Because I know like a lot of times, you know, we drink. Like, I know for me, Starbucks during the holiday season, I love their lattes, but then I'm like, oh, you know, 1 latte is about 400 calories. I could be eating that. So help us.
And again, with those dairy products, using the reduced fat version, eggnog's really popular this time of year. Look for a reduced fat eggnog option. With coffee beverages, use skim milk instead of creamer to flavor it. If you drink alcoholic beverages, drink them in moderation because beer, wine, mixed drinks, they add a lot of calories pretty quickly. With mixers such as juice, regular soda, other sugary options, they add even more calories. So even doing a non-alcoholic drink like a punch bowl can still add quite a bit of calories. Instead, a healthier option would be have sparkling water with cut up pieces of fruit in it. It still looks festive and fun, and it's a good source of you know, nutrition with the fruit in it.
That is awesome. Now, there's been a lot of controversy lately regarding diet sodas. What can you tell us about diet sodas? Are they good? They're bad?
Diet soda is more or less the same as regular soda. Drink them in moderation, and it's not going to have any negative effects on you. However, if you have diabetes, you're watching your blood sugar, you're trying to lose weight, drinking a diet soda instead of regular soda is going to cut out a lot of calories from excess sugar. So I usually do recommend, if you drink soda, drink a diet soda. There's no reason to get all that extra calories. If you don't like a diet soda, there's a lot of options out there for a low-calorie soda. You know, whether it's Dr. Pepper 10, Pepsi Max, Coke Zero. These are all very low-calorie drinks that taste closer to the regular.
Awesome.
So that's another option as well. Of course, water is going to be
Is
the best.
the best, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you had mentioned the sparkling water with the fruit, I just remembered I tried some water with some cucumbers in it, and it was really good. I love cucumbers, but it was really good, and I had water with oranges in them, and it does. It makes it look really cute, and but
Gives it a little bit more fancier appeal than just
Yeah.
a glass of water.
yeah, there's like blah water. Now, what advice can you give our listeners regarding burning off all of those wonderful calories?
Get more physical activity this holiday season. When we're talking about weight management, it's both calories in and calories out. What you
Okay.
eat and how active you are. Consider just adding 15 more minutes to your current workout time, or going to the gym an extra day or two a week to balance out those increased calories. If you're not currently exercising, just try adding a short walk to your day. Make it a family tradition to do a walk together after a large meal. That way the whole family's involved.
And there's so many other activities I'm sure that you can talk on, you know, especially with the gaming system, like the Wii system, and just a lot of
Anything
fun
that
stuff.
gets you up and moving is going to help. When you're sitting on the couch watching TV, that's not going to help get any activity. The recommendation is at least 30 minutes most days of the week. If you're trying to lose weight, bumping it up to at least 60 minutes.
An hour a day.
So even if it's dancing to music, if you get up and march in place during commercials, there's so many things you can do to get those exercise minutes in. It doesn't have to be continuous. It can be chunks throughout the day.
Oh, that's really good to know. Because I think a lot of the listeners, or a lot of people in general, think that, well, how can I fit 60 minutes in and go into the gym, and how can I afford to go to the gym, and all that. So those are really good ideas and tips.
And this time of year, it's usually too cold or it's too slippery to go outside walking. There's lots of places in town where you can just go and walk. The Young Arena has hours where you can walk around, for essentially free. There's lots of options out there if joining a gym is cost prohibitive.
That is great. Now, here's some really important topics that we don't have a lot of time, but I want to get to, about food safety, because there's been a lot in the media lately regarding food safety. Everyone, has heard about the groups of people who have gotten sick after holiday meals, and why does this happen?
It's really easy to forget basic food safety, especially this time of year. You're distressed to get food done by a certain time. But the number one thing you can do to prevent the spread of disease is wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands before, during, and after food preparation, before you sit down to eat a meal. Also, just keep your kitchen clean. Use 2 cutting boards, one for raw meat and one for cooked foods, to help prevent cross-contamination.
Okay.
Thaw frozen meats in the fridge. Never thaw raw meat on the kitchen counter or under just sitting hot water in the sink. That can increase the risk of foodborne illness.
And what about just leaving it in the sink to unthaw?
If it's in the sink, you want it under running cold water.
Okay. But not in the sink overnight. Okay, my listeners.
When you do have leftovers, try to put them into containers and put them into the fridge as soon as possible, because bacteria begins to rapidly multiply in just 2 hours. So if you think of the time it takes to get food out, go through the line, sit down and eat, that 2 hours can come and go pretty quickly. So that's something to keep in mind. Don't let those leftovers sit out very long. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is never eat raw cookie dough.
Oh, and that's so popular. I've heard
As tempting
so
as
many.
it is, yes. Those raw eggs contain many harmful bacteria that can lead to food poisoning. And it is no fun being sick over the holiday time.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. So never sample raw cookie dough. Do not eat raw cookie dough.
As tempting as it may be, never do it.
Okay, suppose people try everything you suggest and they still gain weight over the holidays. What would be your last advice that you can give them?
Well, weight loss can be very difficult to accomplish over the holiday season. In addition to all the foods out there, it's a busy time of the year. We're running around quite a bit. It may be a better idea to set a goal for weight maintenance this year instead. That way you can still enjoy your favorite foods without the unwanted weight gain. Again, focusing on portion control and moderation.
Now, when you mention weight maintenance, what is that?
Maintaining your current weight.
Okay.
Trying not to gain extra weight, but weight loss isn't a big priority, or it's not something that you have time to focus on.
Okay. Now, if our listeners would like to contact you, and are there other clinical dietitians that you work with? What does your staff consist of?
Yes, we have 4 full-time clinical dietitians at Allen Hospital, and we can be contacted. Our office number is 235-3957, and we get a lot of questions with whether it's food safety questions or it's a basic nutrition question. We're always willing to help. If it is something more complex, like information on, my doctor just diagnosed me with diabetes, I need education, something more in-depth like that, we would prefer to see someone as an outpatient, and that can be arranged by a referral from a physician.
Awesome, so that is possible.
That is possible.
Great. Well, Lisa, you've given us so much to think about, and we're going to enjoy this holiday season, and I am so happy that you took time out of your day to join me today.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
You've been listening to the Allen Care Show, a show for women and their families. My very special guest today was Lisa Braley. Lisa is a clinical dietitian at Unity Point Health, Allen Hospital. And our topic today was healthy eating for the holidays. Again, Lisa, I can't thank you enough, and I know my listeners thank you as well. Join me next year, 2014, on Thursday, January 15th at 10 a.m. right here on KBBG, and have a very Merry Christmas. You were awesome.
I hope I gave the right phone number.
Oh,
I usually write it as I'm saying it, so I was a little nervous about that.
oh my gosh, that was great.